Happy St. Patrick's Day, first graders. I know that I already shared a video out this morning, and so this next story that I'm going to share is going to be tomorrow's video, but I'm going to share it a little bit early because the story I'm going to share is Finn MacCool and the Giant's Causeway. And this is an example of an Irish folktale. 2 weeks ago when we were studying Little Red and the Very Hungry Lion, we talked about how that was an example of a folktale. A folktale being a story that's passed down from generation to generation, and there's usually a moral at the end of the story, so a lesson that needs to be learned, and there's usually a good versus evil component. So this is an example of an Irish folktale. So it still has the good versus evil, it still has the moral, but this story was passed down generation to generation in the country of Ireland. About 15 years ago, I went to Ireland, and the whole time I was there, I studied folktales and folklore. And so this is a story that's really important to me because Ireland's kind of important to me. And so I wanted to share this with you, and we're going to look for those elements as well of a folktale. So this story is called Finn MacCool and the Giant's Causeway. There are 3 characters in the story, and that's what this page tells you. We have Finn MacCool, and he's an Irish giant. We have his wife, Saba, and so that's Finn's wife. And lastly, we have a Scottish giant, and his name is Redman. So, an Irish giant and a Scottish giant, and his wife. There was once an Irish giant called Finn MacCool. He liked to fight the giants who lived in Scotland. So he built a pathway across the sea called a causeway from Ireland to Scotland. One day, Finn told a Scottish giant called Redman to come fight him. When Redman started to cross the pathway, Finn realized the Scottish giant was much bigger than he was. He ran home to hide. When Finn got home, he jumped into the bathtub, and his wife Saba threw a blanket over him. Then there was a very loud knock at the door. When Saba opened the door, Redman boomed, "Where is Finn? I want to fight him." Saba replied, "Finn is out hunting, but you're welcome to come inside and wait." So he's a very large giant. Saba pointed to a huge log leaning against the wall of the house. "You're welcome to leave your spear next to Finn's," she told Redman. So if that is the large giants, she's saying that this is Finn's spear because it's larger. So maybe he'll think, wow, Finn must be a pretty large giant if that's his spear. Then Saba baked some bread for Redman, hiding a saucepan in the middle. A saucepan, that's just a fancy word to describe like a pan that you might boil macaroni and cheese in. When Redman bit into the pan, he broke his teeth. Saba smiled and said, "Well, this is the bread that Finn likes best." So the Scottish giant's probably thinking, wow, that bread is really tough. Finn must be a tough giant. Next, Saba gave Redman a bucket full of water. "This is Finn's favorite mug," she said. "He must be very big," said Redman nervously. So look at his face there. So we've got that mug. And look at his face. He's kind of getting nervous. Then Saba told Redman that she needed to go feed the baby. She threw some bread to Finn in the bathtub, and he moved under the blanket. Redman thought Finn was the baby. Redman ran from the house crying. If the baby is that big, then how big is the father? He ran all the way back to Scotland across the pathway. Finn jumped out of the bathtub and chased Redman, throwing rocks after him. He smashed up the pathway he had built so that only the jagged ends near the shorelines were left. And you can kind of see him running away. The end. So let's talk about how this is a folktale. So the moral of this story is that you should always think before you act. So Finn was acting really tough when he threatened and said, hey, how about you come over to fight? Not that fighting's ever okay, but he tried to encourage some sort of battle between them. And then he realized really quickly, that giant's a lot larger from far away. This story also teaches us that very often your brain can be the ultimate source of strength. Even though he wasn't as large as the Scottish giant, his wife was really, really smart. And she was able to think of this plan that ended up fooling the Scottish giant to run back. The other part we mentioned was the good versus evil. And this one's a little hard for me because I can think automatically that the Scottish giant must be the one that's evil because he's coming over and he wants to battle, he wants to fight. But I'm trying to think of who's the good element here. So I'm going to kind of leave that up to you all to think about. Because to me, I'm thinking that Finn could be the good, but he wasn't very nice when he tried to get the Scottish giant to come over and fight. Part of me's wondering if the wife is the good element because she was the one that came up with the tricky plan, or maybe there was no good element in this folktale. I'm not sure. So I'm going to let you kind of be the judge of that one. The really cool thing about this, and if we were in class today, I would have taken you on a virtual field trip so you can actually see the Giant's Causeway exists. It's really there, and it's in the northern part of Ireland. And when you go up there, we have these little hexagonal shaped rocks, and they do lead out quite a bit heading towards Scotland, but then they stop, and they're perfectly shaped hexagons. So I'm going to post some pictures of what they really look like, and maybe if I can put the link in there, you can take a quick little virtual field trip to what the Giant's Causeway actually looks like. When I was there, we did go out there and we walked on some of them, and that's when we learned the folktale. So anyway, that is the story of Finn MacCool and the Giant's Causeway, and I hope that you were able to get outside, enjoy some sunshine. And so this is Wednesday's story, so I'm not going to share one tomorrow. I miss you all, and I hope to see you really, really soon.